Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this talk. And as you can see, this is a very different topic than your usual dev conference. It relates to security, of course. As you can see, there's threats. So it's mostly relates to security threats we are talking about. And the goal of this talk is to create doubts on your mind, to create curiosity, to create some kind of questions, mindset, and also to have fun, really to have fun with this topic. Who am I? As you can see, I work for KPN, and one of the missions we have within KPN is that change the culture of people, culture of the security within developer community. I'm one of the person within the team actually leading that culture change. So that's why I'm talking this to developers, because, hey, world is taken up with softwares. Believe it or not, everything. You run a small cafe, you have a website to run, right? So software is everywhere, and security, cybersecurity, privacy, compliance, these things, if you're not hold up with your developers, then yeah, what's the point? You are building softwares, you are building functions, but you are very disconnected from the security world. I think that doesn't work that way. We are very much looking forward to work closely with developers, and that's why this talk about. So I'm curious, how many of you are actually software developer? I think vast majority of you. And are you familiar with threat modeling? Have you done it? Few people I see here. I'm very happy for you guys. So, have you done it already, or you are just familiar? Done it? So for you guys who never have even any encounter with this topic, or never have done it, it would be a little bit over the top. But I will try my best to put at least the objective that I have in my mind. Yes? This should be familiar for most of you, right? So this is your typical DevOps cycle. And what do you do in that? You have your business requirements, right? People say, OK, you have to build this or that. Maybe some security requirements if security team is really active. Otherwise, just go with the flow, have a paved road, and just go with it, right? Then you do coding. And what do you do with the coding? You do some code quality checks, maybe peer review, right? But do you do actually the security checks within the code? Unless someone says so, right? Unless someone is pushing. Then you do your unit test, integration test. Then you do some user acceptance test, maybe penetration test. If security team is, you cannot go live without do a security test, right? Then you just do your performance test while you are running the production instances. One of the things that you are thoughtfully actually aware about your availability of your application. Believe it or not, this is also a security thing, availability, right? So you've done your job. You are very happy that you finished your work at office. Now you are heading back to home. But this is the weather outside. What do? You have to go safely at home with your family, right? Then some of the things you would constantly think in your head, oh, what should we do? Some of the things you could do upfront, like if you already know that there would be snowing, what you could do? You could have a better winter tire, right? Could be a preparation for you. Could be something related to while you are driving. Also, you could also think about how my car looks like. Is it this side or that side? I'm So few of the things, as you can see, you can control to keep your car safe. Like your mirror view, you can clean it, right? Also, your speed, you are in control. Your fuel level, you can check already. Maybe you are in a mountainous road, and it will take. Think about it. It's not from the Netherlands, by the way. But some of the things you have no control over. That's also interesting here, right? Like the road itself, right? Slippery road, you have no control over it. It's just given. Few other items that you may recognize. Also, it could happen like that, right? So a lot of things could be there, and you have no control over this. So you see there's two colors there, right? It's intentionally made like that. Some of the things that you can control, from security term, we call that weakness of your system or vulnerabilities. Some of the things that you cannot control, we call that threats, which is present. You cannot kill all the threat actors, all the hackers. You cannot kill them, right? They would do their thing. But if you pay a little bit more attention, if you fix your weaknesses, for instance, if you watch fully your driving skill, if you are in the right side of your road, if you have very good winter tire, if you have right level of fuel or everything, then those threats are out there, but that will not impact you. So that's the relationship, very, very important. Recognizing your weaknesses, fixing those, that will have a counter effect on the threats out there, even though those are present. So far, so good. And we do that threat model every day, like driving the car. You go to bed, closing your door, right? You check, double check, is it open or closed? You cross the street, you check both sides. Why? Because you are learned to do those kind of threat recognition from the early age, from your parents. But when we ask, have you done threat modeling your web application? You say no. Why? Because you are not trained. You are not doing that every day. You are not skillful yet to have that in your mind. So that's where we are heading. To keep that mindset settled based on some methodology that could help you to gain that. So if we define it as a more formal way, then it would be like it's a structural thought exercise that you would do to find threats or vulnerabilities, and you would do that very early on so that you can prevent it even before it happened. It's a cycle, so you need to know what you are working on, maybe a feature, maybe a software, maybe an app, whatever what, and then you will apply certain thought process, what might go wrong? What might go wrong? It could be 10 different things might go wrong, and you will apply the preventive measure there. And you would do that very early on. As I said, you can do this later. Your application is running. Still, you could do that, but maybe that could be a little bit costly to implement that kind of measures. But ideally, you would do that very early on. Some of the other things also you could do. I will not go on the detail because this is not the topic for today. So you could do other security tests along the way. So what actually you need to do a threat modeling session or model threats on your application? You need to know your context. Is it a consumer application or is it a business-to-business application? What kind of data you process within that? How much time you like to invest? Who should be in that session? Is it only security team and developers, or there should be business representative or some other people? And also, you need to know how your system look like. So you need to have a system diagram. Otherwise, you cannot talk about your application, right? And then you need a methodology to actually go about it. Remember the question I asked, what can go wrong? It could be 100 things could go wrong, but do you discuss about this helicopter crashing in front of me? Because you cannot do anything about it, right? So forget about those things, but those things matter. That should be our limited set of items or threats. That would be our focus area. This thing should be familiar for most people, right? authentication, authorization, accountability, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. These are very classic security features that you, by knowing or not knowing, usually implement in your application, right? So confidential is all about you only give access to your data to your authorized persons, and all other would not have that access. So confidentiality is also encryption and those kind of methods that you can apply. Integrity is all about making sure that the data would be modified only by authorized people. Availability, I think you guys are very much aware of it. You have to have 99.9999% available system, right? And that's availability, and only authorized people should be able to access that. This basic CIA, or confidential, integrity, and availability triad, is supported by this authentication layer, authorization layer, and accountability layer. But if those are not really there, then we have a problem. And that's the methodology of Stride. It is invented by Microsoft back in the day. It is widely used, but this is not the only method, of course. There's multiple other methods also. So what happens if one of them are not present in your application? If authentication is broken somehow, either you didn't implement it correctly, or the requirements were not clear, whatever, then there should possibility of threat called spoofing. Spoofing is all about falsifying identity or impersonation, right? Spoofing is all about you are meant to be something, but your identity is someone is taking over, right? Tampering is all about your integrity is lost, and then you have a threat of tampering, so unauthorized modification of data. That's very much familiar to you, I think. This concept is a little bit difficult for most folks, I would say. Repudiation, what is this about? So if the accountability of your application is not correct, if there's no audit trails, then you cannot distinguish who is doing what. So think about you have a data breach, and you go to court, and you like to prove somebody did hack to your system. But if you don't have audit trails, you cannot prove that. So that's repudiation to the level that you should be able to prove that in the court. And if confidentiality is broken, then you have problem of information disclosure. Availability linked to denial of service. And same goes for if your authorization level is not clear, then it can have elevation of privilege threats. This is a very nice representation of a system. As you can see here, very nice, lovely looking, right? Here you have a lot of components. I like to point out few. Is it visible? I'm not sure. You can see my laser point? No? So then I will just go with that. So you have few components to define your system. You have users, you have some processes, right? And you have also some data store and some data flow from one place to another. And the rectangle green one are the users. The blue ones are the processes. The gray ones are the storage. It could be persistent storage, non-persistent storage, doesn't matter. And you have some connections, information flowing over. Do you need anything more to define your system or any application per se? You have user, your process, you have data storage, and you have connections, right? So this is very easy way to define your application or system. We call it a data flow diagram because data is flowing over it. So it is one of the ways you can define your systems. So how we can apply actually Stride, which we discussed in the previous slide. So you would go each line of the communication and say, can tampering be possible? Can spoofing be possible? Can denial of service is there? So you say all the 6 items, and then just yes, no, yes. If it's possible, how? How can we prevent? So if you have this system diagram ready, you can just apply systematically, one by one, with a setup of people that is it going to happen or not? If not, then just justify how not. If yes, then justify how. So that's easy it is. But you have to take that first step. That's where everybody is a little bit backing off. But that's why it's a systematic approach. But when you, down the line, 2 years doing the systematic approach, then it would be in your head just like crossing the street, just like driving. But initially, this is very important to have. Also, the diagram could be that messy as well. So it doesn't matter. If you know your application, you would be figuring out what is this about. Now we will be getting over from the winter to summer. Summer is coming, right? So now we were visiting Ibiza, and this is your beach hotel bar, right? If you were in a hotel and they have a beach bar outside, and they also have a system for the very convenience of the guests, like this. So they have a system. If you take a drink, then you will just write yourself. There's no people actually watching that. You can write it down against this list of drinks you have in the left side, and the room numbers are defined using the fruits. So you just take it, write it down, end of your stay, the owner would charge you what the drinks you had during the stay. Very convenient setup. Do you see any problem of spoofing? Really? You see it? Tampering? You see it? Okay, let's see. So, the obvious one, I think, is spoofing. You taking drinks and write it down to other persons, right? That's impersonation. How about tampering? Mess up with the numbers, maybe, right? Or mess up with the drink type. How about repudiation? Oh, sorry, I revealed already. So repudiation is basically you would consume, but you would never write. So there is no log about it. You will be never. So how about information disclosure? That could be a tricky one, right? Everybody is taking drinks. How the information can be disclosed through that piece of paper? You can also see who is drinking what. And based on that, you can see who is alcoholic. Or you can stalk someone. Oh, I like that person, and which room that person is actually living, right? So it can give you information from other person. It's a privacy violation. Same goes for denial of service. Just take that piece of paper with you, and then everybody is happy because they are getting free drinks. And elevation of privilege is even fun, right? You become the owner of the hotel and knock the door and charge other guests because you're elevating your privilege. I think after this talk, your head should be equipped with this stride. Otherwise, you will remember this beach bar for sure. So some of the benefits of threat modeling, because you know that how to start. Some of the benefits, because normally you have this checkbox security items like security policy or so. It's never tailored for your application. It's never contextualized in your application. But if you do threat modeling, it's really contextualized, really personalized, really tailored for your application. And as there is an example, right? Denial of service could happen in many ways, which is never possible through a checkbox security policy to fulfill all the scenarios. What other benefits we have? That you gather in a room or in a place with multiple stakeholders. So all the perspective, that's never possible without having a common session. So 360-degree threat landscape you can have. Also, if you are building a Gen AI solution, then threat is different than building a normal e-commerce site, right? So that's why also technology-focused threat modeling also might be an thing. And the last last 2 points are, especially the third one is the main topic, main goal of this talk, breaking the silos. Because security teams are under-equipped, security teams has a lot of skill gap, and developers can fulfill that gap by stepping up. They're either developing and also doing security as part of the role. The last one is a little bit tricky because you see this picture already. So it's a feedback loop. I think that the arrows pointing to that. By threat modeling, you would find some threats, risk for your application. And this feed-forward arrow is actually saying, OK, you have a high-risk application. OK, do more checks, right? Do your code check. Do your software composition analysis. Check your open source components. And then also do a penetration test. So that's how also you can use threat modeling as the basis for doing more checks on your application based on the need. There's definitely more tools out there. Just a link there. So these are the key takeaways. As I said, the last point, these are the be doubtful what you are doing right now. Challenge your security team. Oh, I learned threat modeling from this talk. When are you going to host a threat modeling session with us? So if that you can do from tomorrow onwards, that would be my success for this talk. That's all from my side.